Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Irreverent Nexus. Today, welcome to the bottom shelf. Absent from a live view and a chat, I would like to share a conversation with a Marxist about political pragmatism in the United States electoral system. Previously, this Marxist had articulated privately to me the details of his strict moral compass, the magnetic strength of his principles that forced him to concede any vote under an electoral lose-lose situation, to be unable to vote for any candidate he perceived harmful in an ethical or moral sense. In 2016, this resulted in a cacophony of disillusionment. He couldn't vote for either party, as both candidates violated his moral principles, and his chosen candidate, Bernie Sanders, was subjected to highly public and internal attack from Democratic Party apparati in private and public. The private nature of the internal party documents later became public by WikiLeaks. BeAsMyGodAm, thank you so much for joining us today on the inaugural episode of The Bottom Shelf. Firstly, I'd like to offer you the opportunity to correct any mischaracterizations I may have made or add anything to my introduction of you that I may have missed.
Oh no, the only thing I would probably add is that I am a tradesman, and I've been in the working class my entire adult life. That's pretty much you sum me up really good.
Thank you,
And
boss.
as far as my Marxist beliefs are concerned, they come from a view of, I worked really hard for this. Why are you taking most of it from me? That's my view.
That's interesting because most conservatives, I believe, would articulate a similar view of what they perceive to be Marxist communism or socialism, any of those three. They would articulate that they feel those systems are taking from them and giving to those who are undeserving.
Well, that's the whole idea of taking. Okay, so I'm going to take, 60% of this dude's work and then go give half of that to this dude because he doesn't feel like getting off the couch, and that's silly. It's not.
That's not the kind of Marxism you're talking about.
No, not at all. And I mean, honestly, my Marxism, and we'll probably get into this a little bit more, is a little different. And I have my own Marxist utopia, as many Marxists do. Just as many preppers think that the world's going to end in a certain way. I have my own view of what a utopia looks like. So,
okay,
at the end of the day, I think that, certainly social programs are helpful, and I could probably see the argument of enabling people, and
yes.
I've seen that happen, but at the same time, though, there's a balancing force here. You're keeping people down low enough that they get disenfranchised. They start feeling like, why is it worth working my ass off when I could just give it given to me? Meanwhile, I'm working my ass off, and it's like, I do understand there are certain levels of the capitalist society that I've definitely benefited from, and full disclosure, I'm doing good, but I just think it could be a lot better. Unfortunately, and this is going to be a recurring theme with me as far as my Marxist utopia comes into play, people suck. people don't follow the rules.
So you're a bit of a misanthrope.
Yes, I am. Yeah, and if anybody asks me why doesn't Marxism work, and I've been asked this question because I've been in heated conversations with my coworkers who are very conservative.
Yeah, how do you counter that?
When they ask me why doesn't Marxism work, and I say because people suck, and it's just the truth. And unfortunately, that's the truth that I have to live with every day. It comes down to who watches the watchmen. If you have a benevolent government, who is calling them benevolent? Who is saying, us as the people? This is also part of the reason why I'm a 2A guy, but
of course,
not quite, not quite down the road of like a Boogaloo Boy or some shit like that. But I'm definitely 2A in that I have my means of production, and in other words, I can produce meat if I need it.
Yeah.
That's
And
that's a means of production right there.
yeah, and thanks to
And
groups like Redneck Revolt and the Not Effin' Around Coalition, we are seeing a resurgence in left-leaning militia groups, particularly in black areas and cities.
yeah, oh yeah,
And
and
they seem to appear wherever there is police on black violence to be criticized.
oh yeah. Well, and I'm certainly um so another thing to kind of introduce myself to your channel is that I'm a very staunch opposer of the war on drugs. And as a matter of fact, you'd probably call me libertarian in this aspect.
Okay.
Is that if I feel like, I mean, this, but in my philosophy, this is a means of production type of thing.
Okay.
So if somebody wants to make meth, that's their, you know, to each according to his need, right? I mean, that's
From
my
each
philosophy.
according to his ability.
Yep, right. If I have the ability, you have the need, I'll make you some damn meth. And I'm cool with that. And if the guy wants to do his meth and go to work the next day, that's cool with me too. And I've honestly I've known a lot of people that do that. I mean, in the Reagan world, I'm going to call it the Reagan world, you know what I mean?
That's completely
Uh,
fair.
if a lot of people, if people don't know what I mean, it's the war on drugs, heavy hitting drugs world, the dare world. In the dare Reagan world, all people who use drugs are bottom feeder shitheads, but that's just not the case.
They're
I
thugs,
know
they're
they're
criminals,
thugs, they're whatever.
they support
They're miscreants.
terrorism, they'll hook
Yeah,
your kid
whatever.
on predatory substances that ruin your kid's life forever. And
Yeah, silly, just totally off the wall stuff. And I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like there aren't people that are doing that. But hell, we got Wall Street, right? So I mean, shit, they're doing it just as much as we are.
yeah,
So
but the sentencing disparities that exist for crack cocaine versus powdered cocaine during the Reagan years. They
right.
were an absolute contributor to the number of black men who ended up in prison in the late 80s and early 90s. And
Absolutely.
we have to be fair to both sides. Both sides participated in this particular kind of destruction. The
I agree.
1994 omnibus crime bill that Joe Biden himself worked on was a disaster.
Well, and so that's the Reagan drug politics that I'm exactly talking about. Now, you're right. This is a both sides of the aisle issue, especially during that era.
Yeah, because everybody
And
played that game.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying everybody played that game. Every
Yeah,
part of every political party, state senates, the national House of Representatives, the national Senate, at all levels of American politics was there this game of one-upsmanship where Democrats would write a crime bill and the Republicans would come back with a stronger crime bill, and then everyone would agree on an even stronger crime bill than anything anyone had proposed in the first place.
yeah, it was definitely a pissing contest. And so but that's where I'm getting off, and that's part of my disillusionment with the parties.
Yeah,
And so, like, how you introduced me. Uh,
absolutely.
and so, full disclosure, 99% of the time, I have identified as a Democrat voter. I've always identified as independent, but
Yeah.
I've always pretty much identified as a Democrat voter. Another full disclosure thing for anybody who cares to listen is that I am a veteran and I have served a tour of duty. While I was on that tour of duty, I was promised to be able to vote, and I was not given that opportunity. I felt a little bit disenfranchised. I wanted to vote for Obama in 2012. It would have been the first time I ever voted because I didn't get to vote for Obama in 2008. I wasn't old enough yet. But in 2012, I was definitely willing to vote for him, but I happened to be in a desert in the middle of nowhere, and I
Wow.
was promised the ability to vote, and I didn't get the ability. Like, they were, I'm sure, well,
That's
I tell you this,
incredible.
well, my wife
It's
was in
shocking.
too. So my wife was in, and she was deployed with me. Um, she was deployed in the same area. I mean, I'm not gonna say with me. Like, she wasn't like they didn't just pick her out of somewhere and send her with me. No, she was in another unit in the same battalion, and she was deployed with me, and she worked on the base most of the time, and she tried like hell to get it to where we could send an absentee ballot, and it was just not happening. It was just not going to happen. And even when she would go and like kind of beat the doors down,
Yeah.
they would say, "Look, even if we gave you the ballot, it's not going to be counted unless it's contested." And it's like bullshit. That's like, no, it's
Wow.
not. No, it's not. Like,
Absolutely shocking.
yeah. Well, it was just really a lot of laziness was involved, honestly. I don't want to knock on the American side of this because we weren't in America when this was going on. I mean, we were American soldiers, but we weren't in America. And so I'm probably going to chalk most of this up to laziness, honestly. I don't want to shit on the system too hard because a lot of these people probably just didn't feel like filling out the paperwork, honestly. But
It's disappointing that any American service people, especially those abroad serving our country, would be disenfranchised by clerical error. Like that
yeah,
is in my mind that's wrong. And
like
it
I just
shouldn't, obviously it shouldn't have happened.
right. But I just want to go ahead and say that there probably was a way to do it, and just that nobody was really willing to help us out. Now, take that for whatever it is.
Do you
It
think
is
that
what it is.
this experience affected your thoughts about voting and politics and what it means to exercise your vote?
It would certainly have reinforced it, and I'll give you this because I registered independent when I was 18, mainly because I didn't trust either party. I certainly didn't trust the Republicans. I mean, I was just totally, they're over there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I would snuggle up against the Democrats all the time. That was totally normal. But I didn't quite say, I'm not going to sit here and say, you know what, you own my vote. Like, I'm not going to sit here. Now, that did cause a problem in the primaries. I can't vote in the primaries or
Yeah.
whatever. But I kind of, I kind of said, you know what, I'm okay with that. Let's let them do that,
Yeah.
and let me see how it shakes out, right? Because I'm not a big fan of the whole partisan stuff, and I'll be honest with you, I'm glad we got two parties and not just one,
Oh,
because who knows?
Jesus. No, yeah.
Millions.
Everybody knows from both the wings, if you have only one party, you're living in a unitarian, a truly unitarian state, a one party authoritarian apparatus where whoever's at the top of that political party, that one guy or gal is effectively in charge of your whole country. And
Yeah,
nobody wants
right.
that.
At the same time, though, in my little bullshit opinion, for whatever it's worth, I don't think we need 30 fucking parties either. Like,
The
you know,
parliamentary systems of the UK, for example.
yeah, right. So I feel like we could find a better way that meets in the middle somewhere,
Yeah.
but we're nowhere near that, and I don't think that we're going to get there anytime soon.
But the nature of our country, being able to vote out our elected representatives, frequent political observers throughout history have remarked that if any country would be capable of actually voting in the kind of utopia that a Marxist like yourself would hope for, if any country could do it, it would be us. Because all you would need in the United States to accomplish your goal is to just convince enough people that your ideas are the new way, are a better way.
Yeah. and I agree with that. And I think that yes, it would certainly be. And so that's kind of where I step off. I step off of the boat of. I step off the fuck America boat and step onto the we can do something here boat.
Yeah.
And say yes, that's true. The problem I have with even my own ideas is that it requires benevolent people, and I just don't think people are going to be benevolent. I just think people are out for their own.
My
And
experiences with humanity are, I'm certainly inclined to agree with you. But that being said, I would love to tear open that can of worms. I wouldn't mind at all if you hypothetically sounded off and I presented you with a vacuum in which to speculate about what America would look like if there were enough of us who could demonstrate our personal benevolence towards each other. That if enough of us could embrace that Judeo-Christian philosophy of the Golden Rule, like so many of us claim that we follow, if we could actually embrace that, what would the world look like?
well, so again, this comes back to my own utopian wet dream. And
Well, yeah, but I'm opening the can of worms. I'm giving you. I would like to give you room to sound off.
yeah, so my sound off would be so a part of the problem in the old world that
The world of
led to
2020 and the 20th century and mid to late stage capitalism as we see it
yeah.
today.
Well, the reason I think so socialism got off to a bad start because there was bad, we're coming off of some pretty savage times in human history, right?
No kidding.
And so, you got socialists, and you got you got the national socialists, you got the communists, you got people, and then of course you got capitalists. And eventually, and then you got people in the middle that don't know what the hell they're doing, and they just know that there's bombs getting dropped on them, and they don't know what the fuck to do. We're talking about Europe here.
Yep.
So
The Europeans know that the big boys at the top have declared wars and are dropping bombs on each other, but they're a little bit more worried about how much hay to feed Bessie the cow and whether or not they're going to be able to fix the roof before the winter gets too cold to get up there.
so my mom would often quote to me, and I carry this with me everywhere I go. My mom would often quote to me, "When the elephants fight, the grass gets trampled." That's an old Vietnamese saying.
And it's
And
totally true.
yes, and so and the whole reason why she brought that, she was really, so my mom grew up, she was in her teens during the Vietnam War, and she was a big pushback. I mean, she did things that could have got her expelled protesting the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
And so she was really against it, and she grew up during it, and she was not, she learned a lot about it at that time. So that carried on into her teaching career when she became a teacher, a public school teacher, and she started teaching about the Vietnam War in high school against the wishes of the district. As a matter of fact, my
Wow.
mom actually taught in Ferguson while it was integrating. That's a whole really interesting story that I need to tell you at some point.
Wow, that's fascinating.
She has correspondence from that time. You need to actually probably hear her because when the whole the whole Ferguson thing took off, she had a lot to say about it. She's like, oh, she could have saw this coming from a mile away. And she said that she got in big trouble in Ferguson for talking about the integration that was going on. It was actually
Really?
her first year teaching. Yeah, it was her first year teaching. And yeah, it was during the integration. It was one of the late stage integrations of, school systems. Yes, big deal, man.
It's
We'll get into
very
that.
interesting that the right wing would defend the Ferguson Police Department as saying, "Oh no, they're just." I've heard the talking points they use. They say the crime is just that bad. They're going to the neighborhoods where the criminals are. That's the argument that I hear. Do you have any response to that from the right?
I mean, yeah. So they're going to where the crime is, and you're gonna put people in these areas and make them poor, and then be surprised when they get pissed off.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, crime goes hand in hand with fucking. And you got to understand is that I was dancing on the fucking tippy toe line of poverty and American dream. Like, I mean, it was like I was right in the middle of that. So I knew what poverty felt like.
Yeah.
I knew what potentially the American dream could feel like. So I could see it at every angle. You know, that's why me and Clyde hooked up so well.
Yeah.
And then at the same time though, I mean, that's why me and you hooked up so well.
Absolutely.
It's just like I was in the dead ass middle of that, and I could see it both ways. But the biggest thing that I could see is that poverty drives motivation. I mean, you know, people are hungry. You know, they say that we're only 9 meals away from anarchy. So, I mean, you get somebody hungry enough, they're going to go find food. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it really does come back down to true desperation and what that feels like. There are a lot of people right now because of coronavirus who are going to feel desperation and intense, profound desperation.
Yes, and it's going to get worse and worse. And so that's kind of the other thing is that the lower population has already been through this. They're like, you know, we've seen this movie. You know, it sucked before this happened.
Yeah.
And then you're moving into the middle class, and the middle class is starting to, in some of these bigger areas especially, you're starting to see the middle class realize, oh shit, if you ain't got a way to get food, you ain't got a way to get money, you know, you need money to buy food. But even if you go to the store with money and there's no food on the shelf, you know, it's a bad day for everybody. So I mean, it's no wonder we got pent up anxiety
and frustrated people on both sides.
Yeah. But at the same time though, is that you get into the redlining of some of these big districts and stuff like that.
Oh, and of course the appraisal values with housing loans. A woman did just recently do that experiment. For anyone who isn't aware, a woman tested her home's appraisal value. A woman who is herself black with a dark-skinned son and married to a white man. And she believed that her home's value was being underappraised. So in an effort to get a more accurate appraisal, she essentially, quote unquote, de-blacked her own home, which involved her removing photos of herself, her side of the family, and her son, and replacing them with white coworkers, friends, and family's pictures, along with a few stock photos and frames. After she did that, along with remove any black culture, a Louis Armstrong poster, a black astronaut image. Once all of those items were removed, the home's value shot up $100,000 with a completely different appraiser coming and looking at the same home.
Yeah, I could certainly see that. And I've talked to you about this offline before. Me being a tradesman, I started off in my early adulthood working on residential houses. So I would work on houses. Now I work on industrial, big, giant, huge machines. But I used to work on smaller residential houses. And I would go into these houses. So in the town that I grew up in, I could go to one side of the town and work on a house and kind of be met with, here's the house, here's the layout, whatever. And kind of have a good idea of how this house is going to behave in terms of uh, wealth, let's say. I don't want to
Yeah.
be too vague. I could probably get a little bit more specific than this. But literally go to the other side of town and the same exact fucking house,
Yeah.
down to the damn boards, would be worth 5 times as much. It's literally the same house. And I've seen this a million times, and I can offline
Was the
I'll show you.
home's value inflated, do you think, by proximity to good grocery stores and good businesses, or do you think it
Oh, it was
was some other reason?
so I'll tell you this. I call it and this is kind of derogatory, and I'll have to say, but I call it the hipster couple. And
The gentrification
yes,
brigades.
it's gentrification. It's absolutely gentrification. So there's like so you got your side of town that's, poor, and then
Yeah.
you got the side of town that's rich. They literally live in the same houses, but then you have this gradient in between, right?
Yeah.
So, but the gradient keeps pushing closer to the poor side of town. Now, there's a bunch of capitalists out there that are jumping and cheering. They're like, "Oh, fuck yeah, fuck. I mean, making the houses worth more money or whatever." But it's not that damn simple. We're pushing people out at this point. We,
Yeah.
there's these college educated white folk. Excuse my language a little bit, and obviously I'm not trying to take a jab at college education either.
We're from
But
Appalachia, folks. This is how we talk.
yeah, so there's these college educated white folk that'll come into this house and buy it, for $50,000. They
Yeah.
got a damn good. They got husband's got a bachelor's degree, wife's got a master's degree. They're making some decent money. Paralegal. Somebody's a paralegal. The other one's like, I don't know, working in some bank or something. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
They're making some damn good money, right? And all they got is a fucking dog. And they ain't got shit to spend money on. They ain't got no kids. They ain't got nothing. I'm not trying to say that, having kids or whatever. I got 3 kids. I love my kids, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to bash anybody for not having them. But I'll tell you, the kids are expensive. And, if you ain't got none, you got plenty of money to spend on stupid shit, right?
Yeah.
Like improving your home that, by all accounts, as a person that knows how to improve homes, usually isn't worth the money.
Yeah.
Like, so here's something that I see happening. This is the big problem I have with gentrification, is that these hipster couples will move in, and again, I don't mean to be disparaging, but I'm telling you, they fit a certain bill. They fit a profile. Anyway,
Is part of what you feel like you're being derogatory towards these folks' individual wealths?
right. I do feel like I'm shitting on their accomplishments, and I'm not.
I was
trying
just
to.
curious if that might be something to do with it.
I don't mean to. I'm not meaning to. I'm just telling you this is the way it works. That they'll go into this like borderline gradient community that is like on the outskirts of
Oh, yeah.
the other people, and that's like close enough to the other. So it's like, I put it to you this way: it's close enough to what their parents idealize them having, but close enough to the poor folk that they can afford it and still have plenty of money to pump into this house, right? So
Yeah.
here's what I'm trying to say. You have to understand it, is they're pumping way too much into this house than they'll ever get back out of it. And they know that. Like, they don't care. They want the house to be exactly the way they want it to be. They grew up in a nice, lavish, they didn't want for anything when they grew up. Their parents were educated. Those parents educated them to get educated. They went and got educated. They had the money to do it, whatever. They went and they did this and they jumped through the hoops, whatever.
I'm pretty sure, and at more than a few of these folks' mind, that the improvements they're making to their home are improving their entire community and not just a personal residence.
Right. So it is, but there's a backfire that occurs. That's the problem I have. There's a backfire that occurs because these people will over improve their house and they're okay with the fact they're going to lose money on the back end. So they will over improve this house. They'll like totally fucking gut it, redo it, put whole new floors down, change the whole layout of the damn house. I mean, just totally overdo it.
Yeah.
And now this house is worth, 75 to 100% more than it ever appraised for in the beginning. They might have pumped. Like, I'm not going to shit on them, man. They worked hard for it. Okay. I'm not going to shit on them for that. They worked hard for it. But what they don't understand is that they're going to go pump that kind of shit into that house. Now, all the neighbors, if they can't keep up with that, they're never going to compete. They just can't. And those neighbors will sell at a loss. Or worse, the landlords will demand higher rent. That's the problem. The damn landlords see the fucking property value go up. Now the landlords want more money. And then now these fucking this nice little Mexican family that fed me dinner and just we had a good old time and we talked shit about the neighbor that used to be bad at trumpet and now he's over here playing in the living room.
Yeah.
And they can't live there no more. The trumpet player, that's a true story, by the way. So I went over and I fixed an air conditioner at an apartment complex, and this Mexican family, the father spoke broken English, but the kids, they spoke perfect English. The mother couldn't speak any English hardly at all, but she was a damn good cook. I mean, she cooked up this whole thing. It was pig spine. So like it has a name, and somebody out there is going to know the name, and I'm an idiot for not knowing it. But there was pig spine. I mean, it was straight up like the spinal cord of a pig, and
wow.
and we'd take the fucking spine and pop out the middle, like the marrow part of it, and eat it, and it was yummy. So I mean, anyway, they invited me to dinner, and they were like, "Yeah, let's sit down and eat dinner." And then old buddy across the way there. He's in the apartment complexes that were parallel to the ones that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts playing his trumpet and he's having a good old time or whatever.
Jamming
and
out.
I was like, man, he's really jamming out. And the whole family was like, he didn't used to be so good. like obviously he's kept him up late at night. Well, no shit, like, probably I'm over here fixing their furnace. He comes over, he's talking to him, having a good old time, and they told him that I complimented his trumpet playing. So he went back, got his trumpet, brought it into the living room, and he's sitting there playing the trumpet. Everybody's dancing, having a good time. And again, like I said, at one point, they were not happy with his trumpet playing, but all of those people, because of the inflating property value of the area, they can't live there anymore. So they get pushed somewhere else. I have no idea where they went. This has been 10 years ago. I have no idea where they went.
So having watched families like this one suffer the indignity of losing their home due to rising property values, is that what drove you towards a candidate like Bernie Sanders?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I'll tell you this though. My number one vote for Bernie was getting closer to the ending of the drug war, the ending of the Reagan era drug policies.
So this is kind of a pet issue for you then, the drug war is then.
Yes. Oh, absolutely it is. I'm stuck on it. I'm absolutely stuck on it.
Well, I mean, it's a great choice. I mean, you've got the various drugs of questionable nature that all sorts of people consume. And because of the lab chemical boom in the 2010s, I'd say there are now more drugs than the FDA can functionally keep up with.
Oh, hell. Let me give you some more anecdotal. So...
Anecdote Andy time, folks. Let's fire it up.
This is bottom shelf, boys. So listen here. So I was at a particular medical clinic in a particular town.
Okay.
That is particularly known for its wealth.
Okay.
And down in the bottom of this medical clinic, there was a giant, humongous poster. So let me set the stage for you a little bit.
Ooh.
I'm down there. I'm replacing water source heat pumps in the they're basically air conditioners that hook up to water, and then the water takes the heat away from the air conditioner. Some people might call them geothermal if you're in the residential world.
Yeah.
But in the commercial world, they're called water source heat pumps, and they usually go to cooling towers. Anyway, so I'm down here. I'm replacing these water source heat pumps. We're all over this building, right? There was 200 water source heat pumps to replace. We've been there for a while, so we finally worked our way down to the basement. And so down in this basement, and somewhere I've got pictures of this poster, but there's this giant. I mean, I'm not talking about poster. Let me back up a little bit. This is like an all-weather banner that was like meant to be like outside.
Whoa.
This is how proud. Like, let me set the stage, man. They were proud of this. So on this poster, it was like it started in like.
So we're talking like a couple dozen feet long then.
Oh yeah, shit yeah. I mean, it was 8x14 at least.
Ooh.
Like, it was huge. I mean, it took up the whole damn hallway. And
wow.
So okay, so I was down in this building, and this particular part of the building was called a pain clinic. I'm sure some people know what I'm talking about. And there was a bunch of on the opposite wall to the poster was all these pictures and like awards given to pain fellows. Like, that's literally what they called them.
Pain fellows?
Pain fellows. You know what I'm talking about? Like a fellow.
Yes.
I don't know.
FELLEOWE. It has an E on the end of it. That makes it extra schmancy.
Yeah. So these were talk to your
local doctor.
Doctor about what a fellow is. I mean, they know. That's a fellow. Like that's somebody that's like, that's buddy. But I mean, they're up in it. They're writing a dissertation, or maybe they might be from a different country or whatever. The point is that they're all up in it, right? They're butt naked inside of whatever field they're talking about. So these people were called pain fellows. Okay.
Yeah.
So the timeline of what I'm talking about happened in, I think, 2017. Anyway, this big, giant, humongous poster is showing the progression of low-dose opioids beginning in, I think, 2014, late 2014, early 2015, right?
Absolutely.
And how wonderful these low-dose opioids are for pain. Because
here's how many patients we've helped.
Oh, I mean, shitloads too. I mean, it was crazy. I don't have to find this picture.
That's patients in air quotes for the record. Right.
Well, so it shows all this stuff. You got to understand this is 2017, 2018. We're dealing with like a full-blown heroin epidemic at this point.
Yep.
Right?
All over the country.
Opioid overdoses. I knew people. Like, there were people that I knew that overdosed on heroin that I never thought would have. But it's because of these stupid pain clinics that would give out this shit, and they would brag about it. And that's literally what I'm saying, is that they had this giant poster. I got a bigger point that I'm making here. Bringing it on back to the pharmaceuticals, I guess.
Yep.
Dude, I mean, I'm telling you, they were proud of this, that how many people they gave these low dose opioids to, and how it minimized back pain or lower leg pain or whatever, right? I'm a person that suffers from these pains, and I get massages and I suck it up, I guess, but I'm not about to take a bunch of opioids, I'll tell you that. And then, so the study ended in like 2015, like that's when the chart ended. It's like 2015. And it's like, no shit, we've got all these people in 2017 and 2018, 2016, 2017, 2018 that are overdosing on opioids. It's like, holy shit, people.
Yeah.
Like, here you go. Like, what? Why is this a mystery? And then, of course, some people blame China for it. But my point is, though, man, is that they do not give a fuck. Like, they will take the money. They'll take the damn money. You got these. I'm pretty sure we had a point to all of this, and I went off. I went way fuck off. That's why it's just bottom shelf,
Yeah,
people.
I was setting you up to explore particular reasons that you found yourself with Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So the pharmaceuticals is a big one. That's a big one. Is that like the damn pharmaceuticals and the war on drugs? And I'm sitting here trying to say is that I'm pointing out the hypocrisy is what I was trying to do. I was pointing out the hypocrisy of, hey, a guy rolls a blunt and smokes it. I was one of those people at one time. They roll a blunt and smoke it, and now all of a sudden they're a fucking felon? Like, what the hell? Meanwhile, you have pain clinics that are bragging about the opioids they're giving to people.
Yeah.
Like,
The points of pride. It's a point of pride among pain clinic workers exactly how many pain pills they managed to shove out the door that week.
yeah, and so I want to go ahead and say that, full disclosure, I don't want to be a dick about it, anything. Is I'd say probably, 80% of those people know that they're not, they're doing their job. Like they know that they're trying to help people. The other 20% know they're shitheads and they don't give a fuck. But probably like 80% of them think that they're doing better. And
Yeah.
I would like to think that 80% of them have figured it out by now. I don't
Always
know. That may be
remember,
wishful thinking.
always remember that truth is a defense to defamation.
I guess, but I'm just saying is that I don't think that all those people would think that what they were doing would cause such harm.
Yes, and
I
many of the
just can't-
pain
I can't
clinics
even-
that we're describing have been shut down because they were essentially oxycodone trafficking fronts that would ship 20 million pills to a town of 8,500 people.
Oh, and what's fucked up though, man, is that we were in this building. Me and this other guy were in this building,
Yeah.
completely unoccupied. Like, I mean, there was nobody there. We could have totally just gotten fucked up if we wanted to. We knew where the drugs were. As a matter of fucking fact, there was a computer at one of the rooms that was totally unlocked, and my buddy's sitting there. I don't want to say his name, but my buddy's sitting there. He's flipping through it because we're bored. We're heating and air guys. We're replacing water source heat pumps, so we're gonna get bored sometimes. We're gonna take a break. And he's sitting here. He's grabbing a hold of this. You also have to understand is that me and him were both in the military, and in the military, there's like super mega strict rules, especially in certain situations where you have got to. They call it sterilizing your AO. So you have to like shut your computer down, log off.
Yeah.
Take all your documents off your desk, whatever. If somebody's walking in the room, so even if you have like confidential stuff or for official use only, even unclassified stuff, like even if it's unclassified, it doesn't mean go show everybody. That just means that it's not classified right now. It's like, but that doesn't mean go tell your buddies about it, right? So like, it's like you sterilize your AO, you get everything off your desk, you shut your computer down, you don't let anybody see anything. Because we'd have cleaning crews that would come through, like overseas or even on bases and stuff like that. They were not, they didn't have clearance like we do,
Yeah.
right? We'd have to shut our shit down. Well, so me and my buddy are in here making fun of the fact that this chick's computer is totally logged in, rolling through her email, and here's the fucking safe codes. Oh, look here. They changed this. Oh, well, look at that. They changed the safe codes last week. Here they are. Like, it's like, holy fuck, dude. And we're over here laughing our asses off.
Nice security you guys have around here.
Yeah, so I mean, we did her a solid and went ahead and shut her computer down. Like, we're not over here. We're not addicted to drugs and shit. We got drug tested regularly. But it's like, god damn, man. And they didn't even try. They didn't even know. It's the problem. That's the problem I have with this. They didn't even know.
Yeah. And they most of the time, if they did know, they were in on it and didn't want to shut it down.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They didn't care. I mean, at that point, they just don't care.
Yeah. Well,
So yeah,
anyways, this all comes back around to Bernie Sanders versus the rest of the Democratic primary field, because you and I have had an ongoing dialogue over the past, honestly, year leading up to the Democratic primary about who we liked, who we didn't like, who we thought might actually end the drug war and the incarceration problems we got going on.
yes, yes, yeah.
I
So that's
had frequently thought that Bernie was the guy. He was the one who was going to accomplish the goal. So I can't blame you for thinking alongside with me that Bernie would be the guy who would get the progressives riled up. And he definitely got the progressives and the leftists riled up. Because his insurgency from outside the Democratic Party has somewhat succeeded at bringing in young left-wing radicals to the fold to drag the corporatist neoliberal Democratic Party kicking and screaming to the left.
yes.
This is a good thing, for the record. Anyone who disagrees with this, I'm sorry, I don't know. Come talk to us. Send us an email. We'll have you on the show. It'll be great fun. But I personally believe the Democratic Party is a bit too centrist in the United States. The Republicans are willing to go so far outside the circle of political acceptability towards the circle of, oh, you can fucking get away with this, that things might seem desperate. And that's why the Vote Blue No Matter Who campaign slogan emerged this year. That was a slogan well before COVID-19 made everybody question whether or not it would be a wise thing to show up in person at the polling stations. Absentee voting is up so high that at this time, about 1 million Americans have voted, compared with about 9,000 last time in 2016 at this exact same time of the election. So that's good news. Turnout is officially up by massive amounts due to absentee ballots. Mine and my own family counted among those. So we're in a very different election cycle. Things look very different than they looked in 2016 when at that time you couldn't bring yourself to support anyone.
Yes. Right. So the thing about it is the vote blue no matter who. The problem I have with it is that I just don't really feel like I owe a vote to anybody. Like, so I'll put it to you this way. Is that if you give me a reason to vote for you, I'll absolutely do it. Like, I'm the furthest I'm gonna be from voting for, like, my entire life from Republicans. You know, like, pretty much the only thing they got me on is 2A. And right now, I genuinely don't think that free speech should be a right-wing position.
No, that's ground that the Democrats seem to be ceding to them for some reason. I honestly don't think anyone believes that the right wing are the defenders of free speech in the United States.
No, I mean, and you know, case in point, you've got all the protests going on. I mean, you know, they might. This is the problem I have with Democrats. You know, tell me what you're doing. Like, that's the problem I have. It's like, tell me what the fuck you're doing.
And that, like, you know, friends, brings me to September. Yeah, that's right. It's still September. Damn you, coronavirus, messing with my time frame. Kamala Harris came out and declared that she would not only end the drug war, but also legalize marijuana and end drug-based incarceration in general, all across the United States at the federal level.
Yeah, and I can 100% get behind that. I'm all about that.
Do you believe Kamala Harris when she says that?
Not really. No. I mean, I don't believe it, but I want to believe it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. Trying to see if I can pull it up. Ah, yes. Fade in. There she
Yeah,
is.
I'd like to see it.
Kamala Harris says Biden's administration will decriminalize marijuana. She pledged during an ABC News Facebook live stream that under a Joe Biden administration, marijuana would be decriminalized and the records of those who had been convicted of using marijuana would be expunged. That last part, according to Teen Vogue. Although the Facebook live stream is no longer available, Teen Vogue reported that Harris said there needs to be significant change in the design of the system. This is a departure from her earlier positions when she was Attorney General, but it does follow
Yeah.
legislation that she wrote as a senator. Under a Biden-Harris administration, we will decriminalize the use of marijuana and automatically expunge all marijuana use convictions. We will also end incarceration for drug use alone. This is no time for half-stepping. This is no time for incrementalism. That is a direct Kamala Harris quotation.
Yeah, and I'm 100% behind that. And honestly, my philosophy is that yes, her rhetoric hasn't supported it, but her actions have in certain ways. Full disclosure, I am aware that she did some questionable things.
She's done many questionable things.
But
They both have.
I'm not against. I've changed my mind. Sometimes I want to go to Dairy Queen and then I end up at Taco Bell. I've changed my mind before, right? So, I mean, it's okay. You change your mind, right? And especially when it comes to things like this. These are like big deal things, right?
Absolutely. And it's a sign of maturity for anyone to admit that their position on an issue has changed or evolved. That's natural.
Right. And so, and that gets me kind of to cancel culture a little bit. And I think that that's where cancel culture gets it wrong, is that
Their willingness to go straight for the guillotine.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's like people have said stupid shit and they may not identify. I mean, I'm sure when I was, I mean, just as well as I do, when I was 15, 16, all the way up to, my adulthood, I probably thought all kinds of crazy shit. And
Well, I was busy being a militant atheist at the time. Of course, I remember.
right. I mean, it's just like, we as a people evolve, and
I've since learned to love my Christian and Muslim and Hindu and Buddhist and secular humanist brethren, because many of us are all human. Some of us are lizard men, though.
yes, especially Shia LaBeouf.
Okay, Shia's questionable. I give you 50-60% odds that Shia's a lizard man. Alex Jones is definitely a lizard man. As is Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin is definitely a lizard man.
Dude, Alex, the whole reason why Alex Jones is so against lizard man is because he's like one of the commanders.
Yeah, see, it makes perfect sense.
He's deflecting.
Excellent. Oh. Well, in the end, I remember a couple weeks ago on a heated debate that you and I probably should have recorded and played for dramatic effect on this very channel. I was before Kamala had made her proclamation about marijuana, I had just tried to make an argument from what I called political pragmatism. In essence, that one should vote for less harm. That if one is to be cynical and assume that both candidates are going to do harm, cause problems and hurt people, then you should choose the candidate who is going to do less harm, cause less problems, and hurt the least number of people. And a couple weeks ago, before Kamala said she would end the drug war, you were really not buying that at all from me.
I wasn't. No.
Hold on? Can we kind of go back to that for a second? Because I want to explore more about your personal voting philosophy and why vote blue wasn't compelling even when I made that argument, which at the time you said that, that's really interesting, and I didn't look at it that way.
Well, so just real quick, for those who may be listening and don't know what he says when he says vote blue, it's vote blue no matter who.
Yes.
And I have a serious, principled problem with that. And so that's
the slogan emerges out of the Democratic Party and progressive need to oust Donald Trump in 2020. It's right. Not that political philosophy doesn't have any lasting impact beyond this year.
Well, but that's kind of my problem with it. It's just don't convince me to vote for you because you're not Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's flaccid.
That's my problem with it. That's you don't own my vote, and there's a lot of I got some black friends that feel the same way. Is that, and you've probably heard the criticisms too, but it's just I don't owe you my vote because you're blue. The whole glass of water with the D on it.
But if the glass of water with the R on it has asbestos in the water, and the glass of water with the D on it has assurance that we're trying to pull the asbestos out of the water. It's one party is, in my mind, going to cause irrevocably larger quantities of harm.
I guess this is kind of where we step off the boat, though, man. I mean, I think they're both crony. I think that they both got their, at that time, I'm going back to then.
Yeah.
And
we know they're beholden to their donors. There's no getting past that right now. I have to go to political war with the army I have, not the army I want.
That's true. I mean, yeah, I can respect that. But I'm just not a partisan though, and that's the end. That's kind of where I was, and I have been my whole life. I mean, that's where I was in that time frame. Obviously, if the Biden administration, here. Let me tell you this. I kind of feel like the Biden administration is the previous administration. I have a little bit of problems with that. I'm not a dynastic person.
I mean, it's actually not all the same people, but there are some of the same people. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of, I get a little meh. It's going to take more to convince me if you feel like a dynasty to me, kind of like Hillary did. I mean, it felt like a dynasty.
Well, Hillary was a dynasty. Hillary was destroyed as a political figure by the defeat. I see her as a political wet noodle right now. But
I'm just trying to say is that these things seem dynastic, and I don't like that. And there's both parties have a pattern of this, and I'm not cool with it.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to. Give me somebody fresh. Bernie, in, I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of people that jump up and down and be like, oh, Bernie's been in the fucking, he's been doing shit forever.
Well, but, it is a valid point.
It is a valid point, but Bernie was still an outsider, definitely when it comes to the establishment. And then you got your other guys, Yang. I was a big Yang gang. I was Yang gang. Even though I don't like the whole idea of Universal giving everybody money, because I just don't think it'll work.
Yeah.
Because people suck. But I like his heart. His heart's in the good place.
Yeah.
I don't think giving everybody money is going to do a damn thing. I think that all that'll do is inflate everything. But he was an outsider too, right?
Yeah.
I
As
had
far as the
respect.
Democratic Party is concerned, he's an independent senator who caucuses with the Democrats.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was, he was a runner-up for me for Bernie, right? I mean, he's the runner-up, and the thing about it is, though, man, is I'm big time. If you're gonna come at me and say you're gonna end the war on drugs, my vote's going to you. If you're gonna do it, if I feel like you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it. You're gonna end the war on the fucking drugs. I'm all about it. I'm gonna give that vote to you. But if I feel like you're bullshitting me, I'm not gonna give the vote to nobody at
Well,
that point.
then let us conclude this conversation with a declaration from both of us that that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris can earn our votes if they seem like they're going to follow through on their campaign promise of ending drug-based incarceration for nonviolent drug offenders.
Yes.
That is a key thing that needs to happen. And honestly, that needs to happen as part of America's journey to destigmatizing our mental health system, that can of worms is one that we shall definitely open another day.
Fuck yeah, we will.
It has been over an hour that we've been having this conversation. Do you want to shout out anything or anybody?
Yeah, man. So big shout out to ending the war on drugs, and another big shout out to the biggest cause for violence is poverty. And then in closing, I'll give my vote to whoever's going to stop those things. You feel me?
Absolutely, boss man. My name is Irreverent Nexus. My guest has been BeAsMyGodAm. Thank you very much for listening, and as always, stay curious, my friends.